Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee should have a sequel. A second game, a continuation in the Let's Go series, a remake of the Gen 2 game Pokemon Crystal version. And here's why. I am Nito Marquis, and I'm back with a Pokemon podcast. I'm a frontline advocate for a continuation in the Let's Go series. I would love to see a Crystal remake on the Switch, and I'm going to tell you why. But let's start with what are the current status of the potential of actually having a Let's Go 2 game. There's not much, to be honest, along lines of updates. The last thing we heard from Junichi Masuda, the director, is that in 2018 he told Eurogamer that there were no plans currently for another Let's Go game. He said he wanted people to keep voicing their opinions. They wanted to keep hearing what it was that people thought, what it was that drew them to that game, how they felt about it. They also probably wanted to hear the negative feedback as well. But they certainly heard that with Sword and Shield, so if they heard anything from Let's Go, that's probably not what they're hearing anymore. I imagine people are probably voicing only the good opinions at this point, not really concerned about Let's Go in the terms of all the bad opinions. Pokemon would likely focus on the marketing and the sales of the game, unfortunately. Normally, I don't like to cover topics about this, like what are the marketing potential, what were the results, because in my opinion, a good game could sell badly, and a bad game could sell great. To update you on how Pokemon Let's Go performed, at the current status, Pokemon Let's Go sold 11.2 million copies worldwide on the Switch. That puts it at the 5th best-selling game on the Switch's history, only behind Pokemon Sword and Shield, Smash Bros., Mario Kart, and Animal Crossing. I believe that's how it was. So the potential, I would say, is certainly there, but especially now, in the midst of a pandemic when Nintendo stock went up over 500%, I think development work personally would be where I would want to focus. I would think that development of new games is definitely what the market wants right now. And again, I don't like to put the market at the forefront of a game being produced, but they have to. It's the largest franchise in the world. Pokemon's not going to try something that won't market well. However, counter to that statement, sometimes Pokemon does work on development of things that we wouldn't expect, like, for instance, the new Pokemon Snap. So, similar to the 90s, they very often do break my statement about marketing, and they may gauge marketing, but sometimes we get stuff out of left field all the time. I reference the 90s because they were trying everything in the 90s. They were trying to market whatever they could. They were coming up with great ideas. Everything from Pokemon Pinball to Pokemon Snap and everything in between. So we're kind of seeing that now. Again, largest franchise in the world. I think that there's potential there for a sequel, but at the end of the day, they have the resources. We may see it. This is a very likely idea. And we have voiced our opinions. We had this trending on Twitter, and I say we, the soldiers, the people who support the idea of a Let's Go 2, had it trending on Twitter. We let them know with one solid message before the last Pokemon update, the news update, the direct, whatever you want to call it. They said they were going to announce some news, and Pokemon Let's Go 2 or Let's Go Johto, or even just the term Johto, was trending. Is the potential there? I absolutely think so. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee really were a revolutionary development. This was the first time we saw a mainstream Pokemon game hit the console instead of the handheld. It was the first Pokemon game we saw on the Switch, furthermore. I really do think that it was impressive how they developed a game that was kind of an oddball like that. It was very much more casual than the actual mainstream games. It hit before Gen 8. It kind of revitalized the interest in the game. While a lot of people were yelling for Gen 8, Let's Go was certainly a standalone mainstream game that it hit very well, and they marketed it very aggressively. For starters, I think that there's so much story in the Gen 2 that I think they could remake this game and do anything with it. There's so much potential there. For starters, what would we name it, though? A lot of people seem to think it's Meryl and Togepi. There's even art out there of the box covers being Let's Go Meryl, Let's Go Togepi. I personally think it'd be Let's Go Pichu and Let's Go Meryl. That's simply based on the opening sequence of Crystal. When Suicune runs by, Meryl and Pichu pop up. Now, that's not a very strong argument, but that's my argument. The premise behind the Let's Go games is that your starters are the most important Pokemon. They make the connection with the starter immediately, but the starter cannot evolve. Pichu's not a very strong argument because Pichu was a baby Pokemon introduced in Gen 2. If you couldn't evolve that, it would be like having a weak version, a dumbed down version of the Pikachu from the first game. So Pichu's not the best Pokemon I think that would be picked, but I do think that it's going to be picked based simply on marketing, and I hate to go back to that point. Simply put, I think Pichu's more popular. That Pichu on the game cover would look a lot better than a Togepi, in my opinion, for a lot of people. It would attract them. It'd be like, oh, look at the adorable Pikachu thing. Oh, it's a Pichu. People know Pikachu. It's the forefront Pokemon, the franchise. Eevee was as well. Unfortunately, they can't reuse Eevee, I wouldn't think. And though Eevee and Pikachu represent the series right now as the mascots, they need a new mascot to move in. And I think it would be Meryl, and I think it would be Pichu. Gen 2 has a ton of potential for story. For starters, your rival was Silver in the original Crystal version. Silver was not only edgy, he took Blue and made it worse. A lot of people think Blue was your most aggressive rival. I think by far Silver was your most aggressive rival. Silver didn't have the same motivations as Blue. However, in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, Blue had already become champion and lost to Red. That was already all done. That means Silver will have already had his story concluded, where he lost to Gold, where he already had his family relations summed up. And I think that would be an awesome point. So if we're going on the Let's Go premise, the events of Let's Go occurred just like Yellow, except the main characters had already gone through their story. It was kind of weird. You beat Giovanni in the gym in Let's Go, the remake of Yellow version, something Red was supposed to do already. So they're very much rewriting the timeline. However, the potential for Let's Go 2 is there that they can summarize the connection that Silver and Giovanni have. I'm actually not going to explain what that connection is because I think it's so cool that if anybody hasn't seen what Silver and Giovanni's story is made of, what that story concluded with, I don't want to spoil it for you guys. Let me just say, Silver and Giovanni have a story that could be broadened, that could be expanded on, that overall, that would make Silver so much more complex and so much better, and that story was not resolved, but Let's Go 2 could do that. Now, in terms of your character, obviously you would need to get a new rival if they're going off the original Let's Go new rival concept, which I'm not a fan of personally. I didn't like the rival they introduced. And yes, they made it a more friendly game, I'll give it that. Nonetheless, your friendly rival can be ignored on that aspect. If they're going to do that again, which I'm sure they would, you could still focus on your story alone, which is you get your starter Pokemon, you bond with your starter Pokemon. But what this game has that the last one didn't is that story of Suicune. They're not going to give Gold Suicune. They can't do that. They would have to give you Suicune. So you'd play through the Crystal version. You would play through the Crystal version story, except it'd be you experiencing what Gold went through in the first Crystal version. Gold and Silver, they will have already proceeded through the Elite Four as they did in the game. They did not do the Team Rocket stuff. They did not do the Suicune stuff. Lugia and Ho-Oh, same thing. They did not do any of that because they're already done, because you're supposed to go through that. So they can rewrite the story. This is a whole new timeline, basically. But the point is that Silver and Gold have already gone through their stories, which means now you get to go through and experience the Suicune storyline. That's a second companion the first game never had. Suicune was an awesome story. Suicune running across the region, you're chasing it. They can rewrite that however they want. It's similar to how I had proposed the idea of gyms being remade. Some of the gyms in Gen 1, I thought they had the opportunity to remake them. I did not know they were going to remake a gym that I didn't think needed to be remade, but it was nice. Obviously, the Cinnabar Island gym is that gym. I thought that Lieutenant Surge's gym needed to be remade, and yet they kept it. Kind of an oddball move. Similar to that, they can move to remake any of the story that Suicune goes through with you. At the end of the day, you can walk away with two Pokemon that you've quote-unquote bonded with, two special storyline Pokemon, your starter and Suicune. All of that aside, the story is still there to be extremely expansive. You have Team Rocket building on that Let's Go Gen 1 remake. Team Rocket coming back. You can maybe this time introduce Giovanni, and I think they absolutely should. I think that Silver and Giovanni's story should go on. I think they should expand on it. And if they did, this game would be awesome, absolutely amazing. The story is there. The other side stories, like Kurt. Kurt was developing the GS ball. That is something that we could absolutely see come back, something that did not happen in the original Crystal. We never got around to that unless I think you had the Japanese version. So Kurt, for instance, was making Pokeballs. Now, when you get through part of the game that involves Team Rocket, which is actually kind of brutal in the original, you see Kurt developing Pokeballs. You can bring him stuff. You can bring him the berries, and he will develop Pokeballs for you. What I think is especially cool about that, the potential there for Kurt that I proposed is that Kurt, suddenly this little sideline thing turns into a whole mini game. Imagine this. Kurt says, I will develop Pokeballs for you in the original. But you're playing through Let's Go. He says, I will show you how to develop Pokeballs. Right there and then, you all of a sudden have the ability to customize your Pokeballs. Similar to how they did it in Gen 4, Diamond and Pearl. Diamond and Pearl, it was for show. It could be the same thing here. It could be you have a certain class of Pokeball, and then you can kind of customize it from there. Nonetheless, the idea here is that imagine throwing your Pokeball, the one you developed, on screen towards the Pokemon you're catching. I think that would be absolutely amazing. There are potential on side stories like that exist in this. Lance and the Red Gyarados. I think it would be absolutely amazing to catch Red Gyarados. Imagine that. It's not just a random Red Gyarados spawning like they do in Gen 1, and then they swish and sploosh and flash around the screen. No. This time you're walking up on the lake. There it is. You walk up on the lake, and you see the Red Gyarados come out of the water. It is there on screen, on your TV. You swim towards it like you do the Wailord at the Isle of Armor. Then, boom, the big event happens. You challenge Red Gyarados. The Red Gyarados storyline was just a cool little thing. Same thing with Claire and the Dragon's Den. Imagine the Dragon's Den on your screen. You go into the Dragon's Den. You complete Claire's challenge. Maybe this time they make it more of a challenge. They don't just put a couple whirlpools in there since the whirlpools are gone. Make it more of a challenge. Make it something epic. I think every little piece of the story of Gen 2, which just builds and builds and builds, you can have so much potential there. That said, I'm not sure I'm prepared to see a bunch of people whining on Twitter about getting their butts whooped by Silver. If you battle Silver, this guy's going to be tough. Blue wasn't easy in Gen 1, or Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee. Blue was pretty tough. Well, I bet they could make Silver really tough. Make you battle along with Silver, expand on that Giovanni storyline and the connection they share. At the end, you battle Silver. Furthermore, there's one more battle and one more story that I haven't been going through. I have been dodging it and waiting for the last moment here, guys. Imagine the battle with Red. Red did not make an appearance in the first game. Don't you think that Red should have had more presence? Well, imagine if they waited until Red was in Gen 2. The problem would be that for people that don't know who Red is, it'd kind of be a little out there. Like, whoa, who's this epic trainer on Mount Silver? Just some dude standing up there, he doesn't talk. Okay, I get it. You're not familiar with Red, the younger generation. Build it up. Work on it. Build up Red. You go through Kanto. You're going through the region. The Kanto region is expansive. You can revisit all the gym leaders, which, by the way, I bring you to this. Sabrina dropped the line and said, I will not see a trainer like you again for 3 years. So 3 years after Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you could go back. Battle Sabrina. You go around. Let's just say you learn about this trainer Red. They expand on it more. You are somebody who went through the Johto region, captured Suicune, possibly even already captured Lugia and Ho-Oh. Now you're going around the Kanto region and you're learning about Red. And at the end of it, you learn about Red, you re-encounter Blue, you've already seen Silver. I mean, you've literally got Red, Blue, Silver, and somewhere in there, hopefully Gold at some point. Remember, they can do anything with the story. Gold could have his own story finally. I know Red didn't in Let's Go 1, but in Let's Go 2, they could give Gold his story rather than the player's story. They could give Red his story, which is basically just building up to this guy on the mountain. It may not be as epic as the original version. The original Gen 2 version, you went around as Gold, completed the gyms, and went through both regions, and then encountered you from the last game, Red. I don't think Let's Go could meet that level of epic. However, they could try. They can certainly expand on the story enough that you would be able to enjoy that battle and have a ton of hype. Similar to Green in Let's Go. Green had no story. It was a last-minute thing, yet it was so epic. It was a very intense battle. It was a very intense encounter. Same thing with Red. They build up Red. Some people know who he is. Some people don't. Most people probably will. And then you battle him on Mount Silver. An absolutely incredible battle. Imagine that. The last 2 points I want to make for the story, the reason why we should have a Let's Go 2, Lugia and Ho-Oh. So Lugia and Ho-Oh would obviously be another major story. Lugia and Ho-Oh, however, could have a very, very prominent story at the same time as you had with Suicune and the rest of the trio. So, for starters, you hopefully could ride on the back of Entei, Suicune, Raikou. That would be absolutely amazing to be able to ride your Suicune across Johto and Kanto. Can you imagine that? Literally riding on the back of Entei, riding on the back of Raikou. But then there's Lugia and Ho-Oh. Lugia and Ho-Oh have a really, really strong story in the originals. Again, they could expand on that story, make it more epic, make it more than just climbing to the top of the tower and finding the Pokemon. Imagine, it's similar to Mewtwo, right? Mewtwo in the original game, it's traditional to Pokemon Yellow, really was just standing in the cave. You go find him, there he is. But nonetheless, it was still there. The story was absolutely still there. Same thing with Lugia and Ho-Oh, is they could expand on their stories as well, that they are up in the towers. And not only that, but I imagine the sequence of encountering those two would be awesome, just phenomenal. This would be a lot of development work. Most of what I'm saying here probably wouldn't make it into the game. They probably wouldn't expand on any stories. Silver may make an appearance, but look, they could. And it's up to us to voice that too. Part of the mystery of this is, how would this work with Heart Gold and Soul Silver having come out 10 years ago? The story is to differentiate itself from those games important. It has to be a crystal version. It's similar how Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee simply were not red and blue. Same thing. This can't just be silver and gold or fire red leaf green for the first game. This has to be a crystal remake, a standalone, a new story. It's a mainline game, but in a different timeline than the originals. So part of that is they really have to expand on these things, these ideas of different stories. But look at how vast the regions are. You have 2 regions to work with. The potential is there to make an incredible game. Now, the backlash of Pokemon Let's Go, it wasn't that bad. Most people, I think, enjoyed it. I think the gameplay was great. You had battles. You had co-op. You just didn't have random encounters. At least not battles. So I absolutely think that they could expand on that with a couple improvements to the system. It would make use of your Pokeball Plus, first off. And not only that, but you could customize it a little more and fix some of the bugs, some of the issues, all right? So maybe not as many Pokemon on screen at the same time, or maybe the encounter rates go down. Tweak that a little bit, who knows? You don't want that many encounters. Although I don't know if that was really the most prominent problem that occurred in Pokemon Let's Go. I think most people had the issue of getting experience was grinding, just catching and catching and catching. They're going to need that as their central system, of course. But now you have 2 Pokedexes of Pokemon. So in this case, I would say with 2 Pokedexes, the gameplay itself could be tweaked to improve on the first game and not cost them too much development time either. It would not spend a ton of time. It's perfectly doable to correct some of the issues, like the Pokeball not throwing correctly, making that a little more accurate if possible. Making battles more double battles, more engaging. So it basically, the game had nothing but single battles until Team Rocket. So, and I mean Jesse, James, and Meowth. So Jesse, James, when you battled Jesse and James, they had 2 Pokemon. That was the only time you really had a double battle. Otherwise, if you were playing co-op, which was a great feature, by the way, co-op, you were doing double battles versus single battles all the time. Bring those double battles up to the front a little more. That would be better. There are other things they can do to fix the gameplay a little bit here. I mean, there really were not a lot of graphical glitches, but certainly they could expand on the graphics a little bit. I know the gameplay was great. People loved it, but at the same time, it was still looking like it needed a little more. It was a little on the cartoony side. Put it more towards the Sword and Shield side, and certainly I think it would look 10 times better. Do not reuse all the stuff from Gen 1, or I should say Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Don't just reuse the Kanto region that was already there, you know? This plagued the first game. Silver and Gold, and Crystal for that matter, I should say. They all had a Kanto region that wasn't as developed. It wasn't as expansive. They closed off different things. They could expand on it. Again, Heart Gold, Soul Silver did a good job of this. Follow their lead. Make sure the Kanto region isn't just kind of copy-pasted, glued on there, and you run in and 5 minutes later you're done. No. Make it expansive. Add some story in there. Koga and his daughter. Here's a great storyline. I told you all the storyline a few minutes ago, but Koga and his daughter, you can expand on those, just little tiny things. I mean, yes, in the first games we saw that, but expand on it a little bit. Maybe talk about it a little more. Maybe see what problems Koga's daughter's going through with taking over the gym, and just a little bit of story there. So gameplay and story, I think, is all covered. Only really 2 more things that I'd like to talk about. Number 1 is the promotion. So in the first game, if you bought a Pokeball Plus, it was a paywall, unfortunately. Mew came in that Pokeball Plus. And for that matter, Meltan was introduced as a brand new Pokemon to represent the Let's Go series. As much as I actually did like Meltan, truthfully, I did. I liked Meltan. I thought Melmetal was a weird evolution, but it's still cool. Do not make that Pokemon represent your brand new series like it was there the whole time. It just didn't make any sense. You had 151 Pokemon. And here's Meltan out of nowhere. Mew, who was like the rarest Pokemon ever, the literal mythical Pokemon of Gen 1, he's behind a paywall. Don't do that. They're going to need to promote the game somehow. So they're probably going to offer, if you already had a Pokeball Plus, or if you want to buy one, you get Celebi. I'm sure I see that coming, unfortunately. I don't think there's any way around that. As much as I would love them to, again, expand on that little side story of the GS Ball, Kurt. Maybe you earn the GS Ball. You make enough Pokeballs with Kurt that you earn the right to have that GS Ball. You go on a little mini quest. You get the GS Ball. You go take it to the shrine. Boom. You've got Celebi. Instead, they're probably just going to put them in a paywall, unfortunately. And I don't think there's any way around that. When they see these games, there's a lot of corners cut, unfortunately, and hopefully that would, in my dream world, that wouldn't happen, but unfortunately it's a very, very vast reality. However, I am an advocate that Celebi's story should be upfront and prominent. Instead, just give everybody Mew again. Maybe that's what you do. Here, buy it again. Here you get Mew. Make Celebi's story a little more upfront. Another side story, another thing to do, another post-game addition. Then there's this idea of who's the appropriate Pokemon that the game is centered around. And I think the idea is both. Your starter, be it Meryl, Togepi, Pichu, Quagsire, whatever you want, Wooper actually it'd be, whatever it is. Make that Pokemon your starter Pokemon up front, prominent. It gets its special moves. Everybody likes it. It's fun. But then you're getting through the game. You're seeing Suicune, Raikou, Entei running around. Suicune was a storyline encounter. Make that your next Pokemon. That's another really, really important vital figure, a Pokemon that is special in the story that bonds with you specifically. I think that would go over very well. I think you would see a lot of fans of Suicune. If people have been sleeping on that Pokemon and not thinking much of it, or just, that's a cool design, I like that Pokemon, suddenly you're going to see that Pokemon being a lot of people's favorites. It's okay to have 2 Pokemon that are central to the story like that. Absolutely. I don't see any reason why not. In fact, it makes it rewarding to go through the game and catch another Pokemon that is vital to you. I mean, imagine you're on the back of Suicune riding through 2 regions and your starter Pokemon's up on your shoulder. I mean, literally, what's not there to love on that? But not just that. Also, the Raikou Entei expansion. So these 2 didn't really do anything special in Crystal. They just ran around. They were roamers, something we have not yet seen in a Let's Go game, because the last one, you could encounter legendaries just flying up in the air for no reason. That was kind of weird. But they weren't roamers. So imagine this. You're chasing around Raikou and Entei. They literally just pop up on the map, and it's the way the encounter would work is you're literally just looking for something, and bam, Raikou just pops up out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, drop everything, go catch this Pokemon right now, make sure he doesn't run away. I think that would be an excellent way to put those Pokemon, again, very, very special. And Suicune and your starter would be the main front of the quote-unquote bonded Pokemon. Raikou and Entei would be a goal that you would definitely pursue. It makes them special as well. All the legendaries are going to be special, of course, but it really puts them at the front with something unique, something we haven't seen before, physically running after a roamer. I'd like to conclude this podcast with talking about some of the graphics, or no, the geography that would be more appropriate, the geography of the area. Case in point, Sprout Tower. I think seeing Sprout Tower in 4K, or okay, it's not going to be output from the system at 4K, but you know what I mean, on a nice 4K TV or 1080p TV, I believe the game is in 720, correct me if I'm wrong, my apologies. The game, I believe, comes output at 720. Nonetheless, that is a huge graphical improvement over the last time we saw the Sprout Tower. Imagine seeing that on your TV in 720 or 1080. It would be incredible. The Sprout Tower, the Lake of Rage, Dragon's Cavern, oh man, these would all be awesome places to go through in the game. It'd be absolutely expansive on the first game. This one would be incredible. The places in Kanto are already highlighted. Again, I don't think they should just copy and paste what was in the original Let's Go, but if they want to develop the game like that, I guess I'd be okay with that. And basically the groundwork is already there for Kanto. You're just adding on to the game. Now, could the Switch cartridge take that kind of memory to literally take the entire first game and copy-paste it into the next one? Probably not. Same problem that plagued the first one. You can't just take that game, which was its own cartridge, copy and paste it in as half of the next one. But with the geography of the map, I say there's a lot of room there to make absolutely incredible areas, especially to hunt, especially to shiny hunt. Shiny hunting in all of these areas across 2 regions would be absolutely incredible. Especially Mount Silver. Victory Road, it would all be awesome stuff. I really think they should pursue this. If they don't, I would be certainly depressed. I certainly would love to see another Let's Go game. I couldn't tell you how the marketing would work. I don't know if it's going to be a tremendous success. Again, they went all out on that first one. The second one would simply be developing a new game when people want new development. Look at games like Pikmin. Look at Xenoblade Chronicles. Games that really struck home. People loved seeing them. Loved seeing the development of the games. Metroid Prime 4, another example of a game that people are waiting on. We want development. The crowd wants development. I say now is the time to give them another Let's Go game. 2020. Or 2021 rather. 2021 should be the year of another Let's Go game. Hopefully that means it's already been in development for a while. If we can assume that 2018, they said there were no plans in the works. The earliest they would have worked on it was 2019. Problem is, they were focusing on Sword and Shield. So I would say that realistically, it would be 2022, 2023 before we saw another one, unfortunately. However, I would still love to play through the story. Those are my points. That's what I think when I think Let's Go Gen 2. These are the things that are at the forefront of my mind when I'm like, oh man, I would love to see Crystal remade. For the first time ever, a remake of Crystal version. Another line in the series for Let's Go. I absolutely think they should pursue it. I would love to see it. And remember, guys, they are looking for our opinions. Make them heard. Let them know, guys. Make sure you let them know. So with that, I am Nito Marquis. Thank you very much for listening to my podcast. It was a brief podcast, hopefully fairly constructive, or I should say comprehensive, because I don't know if I missed any points. I have a lot of points. I've been an advocate for this game for a while. I would love to see it happen. Nonetheless, let me know, please, if you think that I should continue putting out podcasts. Right now, I just call it generic Pokemon Podcast. What I would like to do is name my podcast and continue to do it. I used to do it with Naya. We may still do that. It's not a problem. Heck, I may even have guests on the podcast. Nonetheless, please, I would love feedback on this because I do enjoy podcasting. I don't know. I'm in the dark on what I want to pursue with it, especially if it's only Pokemon for now. It's always only been Pokemon. I have compared it to Digimon a few times, which that's a whole nother podcast on its own, is Digimon Survive. Where is that at? What is the status? And how would that impact Pokemon's production of their game, their development? How in Pokemon and Digimon, is Digimon even a competitor anymore? Do they even phase the largest franchise in the world? That would be for next time. Guys, please let me know if you want a next time. I am Nino Marquis, humble and proud. Thank you for listening to my podcast.